Coming up, AI has a new challenger and Google has some new accessibility updates.
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
Oh, hello, Shaun Preece. How are you this fine day?
Gorgeous, Stephen Scott, and I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I am well, thank you. I just want to start off by saying a huge thank you to you.
Me?
Yeah, because you know what? You did something for me last night that I don't think I'll forget in a hurry, and it meant a lot, and it was deeply felt. So thank you so much.
Please explain yourself, please, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you were on the Technically Working podcast with Michael Babcock and Damasi Thomas, and I honestly, I had the best sleep I've ever had, possibly in about 8 years. I was so pleased. I woke up fresh as a daisy this morning.
Unbelievable. You give a compliment and then you snap it back again. Yes, thank you. I thought it was interesting.
It was interesting. Of course it was interesting. It was. No. And I did fall asleep because I fall asleep to everything. Doesn't matter what it is.
That's true. That's what podcasts are for. I should say thank you so much to Michael and Damasi on Technically Working. We roamed into the topic of AI and just stayed there. And I just had a bit of a geek out. But that's the whole point of that podcast. It's fantastic. Check it out.
Yeah, I love talking to those guys. It's funny. I think he said to me, I remember when I was talking to Michael afterwards, he said, when you were on, Stephen, he said it was the longest 5 hours of my life. He said, and you were only on for 2. But it was just...
I love the way they just start. You start listening to that podcast and it's like you just dropped in a conversation. It's so cool.
Kind of refreshing though, right? It's kind of refreshing from, those people that put in all this production and effort and time.
I know. That's ridiculous.
Pathetic waste of time. Why bother? Anyway, welcome to Double Tap. Hello, everybody. So we actually recorded a couple of episodes ahead of time last week, so we were a bit ahead, and it was kind of all by chance. But then, of course, we got this news about the big storm that was going to be hitting the UK, Storm Ewan, or whatever it was called. And let's be honest about it, Shaun. It was a bit of a nightmare for those of us who lived in the UK. Winds of up to 100 miles an hour hitting parts of Scotland. In fact, where I live, in a part of Scotland called South Lanarkshire, that was the highest winds ever recorded, 100 miles an hour. We've never had that level before. And of course, it was ripping up trees. It was tearing the sides off buildings. It was
roofs.
Yeah,
and
roofs
you
were
even
going.
Got the emergency alert tone through the mobile network, didn't you?
That was freaky. That was quite freaky. And, it's funny because I was seeing some people online complaining about other people complaining that the alert was going out. And, of course, it might be upsetting elderly people. And it does. And it's interesting because I was on the call. I had a couple of calls that day. And I was talking to someone who lives in Seattle. And at that point, as I'm on the call, the alert goes off again. And their response to that was, oh, yeah, one of those. We get that all the time. And I'm like, that's the first time we've ever had this. We don't get this. This doesn't happen.
Is the purge happening? What's that noise? And everyone goes off at once. It was a real thing. We didn't get it, but I know you did in Scotland. I'm kind of a little bit nervous about talking about this because, in other countries, their weather alerts are something, truly terrifying.
So hang on, your house is still standing. Oh, good for you.
Yeah. But you know what? It was pretty hairy out there. I went out. I had to go to the shop to pick something up from the pharmacist, and I went out there. Of course, you get the warnings, Amber Alert, please don't go outside, and all that. And you go, yeah. And then you go out there, and it's like, oh, actually, yeah. It took me about 5 minutes to cross a road because I just couldn't hear anything coming. Everything sounded like there was a car rushing past because of the wind.
Yeah. Blind man fog.
Blind man fog. I've never heard that phrase, but that's absolutely correct. That's just what it is.
Yeah,
wind is terrible. Yeah.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I didn't go outside at all. I was encouraged not to by pretty much everybody because our country pretty much came to a halt. Everything was cancelled. Trains, buses, ferries,
planes.
And even planes trying to land. I mean, I remember hearing about one plane that was flying up from London to Edinburgh. And it ended up being diverted to Germany. Now, of course, if you fly internally in the UK, you don't need to have a passport. I guess it's a bit like the US. I don't know, I assume. And Canada, inside the country, you can fly on, say, a driver's license or something else. Of course, for you and I, we do need to use our passports. We'd have been okay. But if you end up in somewhere like Germany, how do you get out? You can't go into Germany. You can't get back on the plane.
You live in the airport.
Yeah, exactly.
Until you're out again. Yeah.
So it becomes a Tom Hanks in The Terminal, which is a very good movie, by the way.
I liked it. Yeah, it
so
got a
did
bit panned, that one. I thought it was good.
I liked it.
I hope everyone was okay.
Little movie
here
review in
the
there as
UK.
well.
I know.
But no, it was. I hope you're all doing okay. And of course, I mean, this follows on from the LA fires and what's going on. And of course, that is just horrendous. The things that have been going on around the world.
Unbelievable.
It's almost as if, Sean, it's almost as if climate change might be real.
Yes, climate might be changing.
It might be changing. It may actually be the case that climate change is real. Shocking, but true. Anyway, yes, we're here and we're safe, and that's the important thing. We hope you are too, wherever you are. And thank you again for tuning in. We're going to get into the news because, look, there's tons to talk about.
The news.
Yes, we have lots of news to talk about. And I want to kick off with a rather interesting story, which kind of came out of the blue, right? So we've been talking a lot about AI. We've been talking about OpenAI, Google Gemini, I would say.
Clever.
Thank you.
Deep blue.
Thank you. I was getting that as you were telling me. And then all of a sudden, this company comes along from China and just blows everyone out of the water and causes a huge run on the stock market as well. Has a huge impact on stocks and shares for big companies like NVIDIA. You know, that are making the chips that actually make AI possible and have been at the forefront of that, actually. Now, interestingly, we'll get into the nuances of this because it is an interesting story. But, you know, essentially what we're talking about here is a company called DeepSeek. And this is an app which is its own a trained AI model, if I've got that right. But they've managed to do it cheaply.
Well, yes, we're not entirely sure what they're doing that's different, but the whole point here, it's, you know, we're almost AI services are 10 a penny at the moment, right? Everyone's got an AI service. But the big news here is that this startup from China developed this in 2 months, and it cost $6 million. Now, obviously, that's a huge amount of money for most people, but in the term of, you know, the AI realm, that's nothing. You know, you look at everyone else, it's cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars just to get started. And, you know, it works in the just on the same level as they're quoting ChatGPT. What do they call it? The one where you pay money for anyway, basically.
Yeah, the Plus.
The Plus, that's the one, yeah. And every request costs significantly less. There's a financial cost for every request that AI does. That's why, you know, most of these services are not free. So the way that they've managed to do this is it uses far less computing power, and whatever reasoning engine they're using to get the responses is just doing it far more efficiently. And the AI world is spooked by this.
Yeah, it isn't naff. I mean, this new R1 model that is that they've created at DeepSeek says that it matches, and this is according to them, matches the performance of OpenAI's O1 model, but operates at a fraction of the cost. And that's the key bit here, right? Because it's about the fraction of the cost element here. You know, if you can create these tools, you can make this technology more available at a lower cost, then of course that's more appealing to, you know, more people because you can access it more easily. And it's not going to cost as much to run. It's not going to cost as much to, I guess, continue to develop. But the question I've got is, there's almost a sense with this story that, you know, they've gone out and done this themselves at the low cost and they've created all this and they've done it. But haven't they just used a lot of the tools that are already existing in order to build this? I mean, is it a bit like me saying, you know, I've managed to microwave myself a meal, you know, which, you know, I've managed to do in 2 minutes. When, you know, obviously I couldn't do that before until someone actually invented a microwave.
Well, yeah, I know the argument you're talking about. People are saying they've created this from scratch from nowhere in 2 months. You know, this is amazing.
And that's not strictly true, is it?
No, it's not strictly true. It's still, you know, the engineering, software engineering going into this to make it so efficient is still amazing. Can't take that away from them. But, you know, we are standing on the shoulder of giants here. People that have, you know, the AI engine and the whole architecture of it has been around for a while. So other than that, but I feel like it's kind of unfair to sort of almost try and diminish what they've achieved here. Because what the point about the Stargate announcement that we talked about earlier when Trump, you know, was announcing that the OpenAI and SoftBank and who was the other company, Oracle, as well are going to invest all these billions into the data centers. And we were saying, well, was going to happen anyway, right? Because they are forging forward with AI, and these data centers are key. Now, the reason that DeepSeek is exciting is because, yes, we're talking about the cost of each AI request, but the reason the cost is less because it requires less power. So exactly what we were talking about before. Well, the AI is here to stay, but maybe we should just hold back and see if there's a way we don't need as much, nuclear power data centers in there, that we can roll back on the power required to make AI work. And DeepSeek have come out and said, this is how you do it.
Yeah, this is the interesting bit about all this, isn't it? Because they're saying they can do this with less computational power. It does have an impact on companies like NVIDIA, which, we heard dropped, share market value dropped by $600 billion when the news broke. Now, this could be a blip, and I think it may well be, because, look, ultimately, we're going to see a new race here, a new race for AI. And it's partly driven, I guess, a lot of people are going to point to Trump on this, but when Joe Biden was president, he stood up and said that the chips that are made in America must stay in America and be used in America and created there, to the point that actually NVIDIA chips were not being able to be sold around the world. So I guess other countries, I should say, and companies in those countries had to go off and find another way. So it's kind of come back to bite them.
The spark that caused DeepSeek. DeepSeek. Sorry, I keep wanting to say DeepSeek.
I know.
No, because voiceover always sounds like DeepSeek. That's exactly why, because they had to get it to run on other available silicon, and that's what they've done. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I haven't used this. I mean, it is the #1 downloaded app at the moment. I believe it was down for a while because everyone was trying it out.
Yeah.
I'm not really that interested at the moment because it doesn't have the live conversational mode, which is how I interact with AI all the time. I'm not into typing to it and doing the answers. But yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things obviously you have to bear in mind. One is that it's, like any AI, it will hallucinate. Some people are saying it's hallucinating way more than an OpenAI. Yes, the answers may be fast, but the accuracy is less.
Yes.
There's also a slight issue in terms of information it may have about the country it lives in, because of course China, as we all know, has a bit of a stranglehold around media and information. And when it comes to information about China, although someone has managed to get it to turn on the Chinese government, which was interesting kind of early on. So I'm sure that will be dealt with swiftly. But
it does do it in its chain of reasoning and chain of thought. You can see that the answer comes out and there may be some sort of that people would deem as criticism towards the Chinese government.
Yeah.
But after on the actual final pass where it's rendering out the answer, it seems to get censored. So, but there are workarounds to get around that. But yeah, I find it kind of funny that people just sort of wave away it hallucinates a little more than usual. But like that's nothing, like that's an easy fix later on down the line. That is not the case. I mean, look at all the companies, the major players out there at the minute. Hallucinations is a big deal. It's the reason it hasn't rolled out as much as it should have by now is because it does get things wrong. Even I use them all. Gemini, ChatGPT, I use every one of them. And all of them will make mistakes. And I can easily get it to say something that's wrong. And then I'll say, no, that's not right. Actually, it's this. And it'll go, oh, you're right. So sorry. You're right. It is this. And I'll say, no, actually, that's wrong. It's this. And you can get it to say pretty much what you want. It's got to get better at that. And it's not an easy fix to, the amount of data they've trained it on, how much they call it poisoning the well, right? If there's bad data in there, incorrect, misinformation, whatever you want to call it, it's going to regurgitate that. Yeah. And they were in such a rush to get these data models together. They've just sucked in everything, and now they're spewing out rubbish in some cases.
Yeah. Sounds like double tap. Okay, so
it's the double tap AI.
if double tap made AI, okay, interesting story. We'll watch with interest. You can tell us your thoughts on it all. I want to talk about the Apple Watch though, because there was a big voiceover issue for those of us who had Apple Watches, in particular with volume of voiceover on the Apple Watch. Did you have an issue with yours? I found mine. This is my issue. It was either so quiet I could barely hear it, and you couldn't really do anything about it. It just wouldn't adjust. Or if it did adjust, and it would randomly adjust, suddenly it would be so loud that, my neighbor 3 streets away could hear
listening
it.
to your messages. Yeah. I did notice the problem, but it wasn't... my volume was stuck very high, and I think I always had mine at 100% anyway, so I didn't really notice it because I didn't adjust it. And to be brutally honest with you, I haven't been wearing my Apple Watch lately anyway, so I haven't really noticed this issue.
How dare you?
But I know a lot of people were affected by it, and a lot of people are happy by the new update.
Yeah, WatchOS 11.3 has been released to the public, introducing a couple of things: a new Unity Rhythm watch face to honor Black History Month, and also, of course, this new update. So AppleViz are reporting this. They say their testing suggests that the volume issues identified in WatchOS 11.2 have been resolved in the new update, 11.3. It took over a month, though, for these things, these changes and issues to be resolved, although some people still saying there's issues.
Yeah, I saw a thread on AppleViz saying even after the update, I'm experiencing the volume problem, but hey, I don't know, how widespread that is, so it could just be a glitch. But generally, AppleViz is a great place, by the way, for all these updates.
Absolutely,
check it out. Because iOS 18.3 was also released yesterday, I believe. Nothing major, but a few new AI things in there. But of course, depends on what country you're in. So, yeah, and tvOS, I believe, was updated, but I don't think there was anything particularly groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Can I just say, as a side note, my Apple TV has died. Has anyone experienced that? Every time I turn it on,
what do you mean it's died?
It just says recovery mode. There was a problem with your Apple TV starting up, and it says recovery mode, and there's 3 options: reset all settings, restore, or restart. I cannot move to choose any of those options apart from restart. And I click on OK, and it restarts and goes straight back into recovery mode. It's the Apple 4K 3, Generation 3, I believe, or 2, I can't remember, the latest one, that does not have a USB port on it. So it's not like you can connect it to your computer and sort of do a hard restore on it. So I think it's just died. I don't know what to do. I must say I haven't rang Apple support yet, and usually Apple support are great. So I will check it out. But I just wondered if any of our listeners have had any problems like this.
Yeah, but also remember, I don't know if you probably wouldn't be as near one as a lot of people aren't, but the Apple stores are great for that as well. You take that in there, they'll have that fixed in jig time.
Yeah, maybe. Or it could be dead in time for a new
one. Stop being so negative. It's fine. You've just broken it.
I don't. You know what? It was just sitting there. It's in the living room. It just sits there, and every now and again, the HomePods would just beep and start talking when it moved to screensaver for some reason. And then I came to actually watch something, and it was just in recovery mode. It was very strange.
So, if you're watching on YouTube, you might be aware in the background of my setting here, I've actually now got my HomePods behind me. These are not the new ones. They're not the brand new ones. The brand new ones are actually downstairs. They're in the living quarters.
I see. Were you not good enough on Double Tap for your new
No, it's not.
HomePods?
It's not that. It's my wife. I want her to experience the beautiful gooey goodness of the Apple HomePods version 2. HomePod's big, I should make it clear, we're talking about here. But I've got the OGs behind me. The OGs are there.
Hang on. There's still the HomePod Bigs behind you, right?
Yeah, still HomePod Bigs, yeah.
Okay, so what's the difference? Is there a difference in sound quality?
Well, once I unbox, the other ones, I'll let you know. It took me long enough to get these up and running, and I've had these for, 10 years.
Unbox them and plug them in. What are you doing?
No, because then I've got to move things, and then once you start moving a thing, and I've got to put a thing over here, and then once I move that, then you've
got to polish,
got to clean everything.
Yeah,
it's too much work.
Yeah, forget it. Just throw them in the bin.
Yeah, exactly. Just chuck them in the canal along with your Apple TV.
Thank you, Apple. They're lovely.
Well, listen, the HomePods, so it was interesting. They've been getting updates as well. Now, I must admit, I haven't turned those original ones on for a while, but they got an update as well last night, a new update, I guess, the 11.3 or whatever it is that it's currently on. So it got an update as well. Again, not making a huge difference, but I will say one thing that I'm glad they've sorted on the HomePods, on these ones especially, was when you were going up the volume, sometimes it would almost lose its pairing a little bit. So the two of them are there. You've got stereo pairing, But what would happen is one would go silent, then the other one would go on, and then the other one would go silent, and the other one would come on as you stepped up the volume, and it was actually a real nuisance. But they fixed all that, which is good. So, I'm really, really pleased about that. But I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this Apple Watch update. I know a few of you out there have been having issues with this. I certainly was. Early testing, and it's only been a couple of hours, but, I've not had the issue come back yet. I'm at least able to adjust the volume on my watch without it screaming at me. It got to the point, if I'm honest. Well, I do the double tap, so 2 fingers, double tap, and almost like push up. It's almost like I'm pushing up the volume, if that makes sense.
2-finger double tap, hold on the screen, and then slide up to increase, slide down to decrease.
You can, of course, do it through the rotor now. You can just swipe you can just choose 2 fingers, use the rotor, and just single finger swipe up and down to change the volume once you've selected that in the rotor. But I'm so used to doing that old way of doing it.
Me too.
And it still works. But before that wasn't working at all. So it would say, 100%, and I could barely hear it. And then I would, come back down again, and it would say 40%, and it was exactly the same volume. That's now stopped at least.
It was an issue. Yeah. So check it out if you're experiencing that.
Hopefully we shall see the end of that issue. Okay, let's move on, because there's lots of stuff. NFB have been working with Facebook. I don't know if you've been following this story, but of course we've been talking about the issues Facebook and in particular the website has been having. The NFB in the States have been working to improve the accessibility of the Facebook app on iOS as well, which is good. But the big issue seems to be, from the NFB perspective, one of the big issues their members are talking about is the Facebook MBasic website, the mobile version, if you like, of the site. But it was more of a text version of the website. Of course, Facebook decided to get rid of that for various security concerns and issues. It was a bit of a lapsed site. It wasn't getting the security updates, I guess, that it was requiring to keep it safe. So they decided to ditch it. And of course, that had a huge impact on many people who used that method to access Facebook. It's not one I ever used. I didn't really get on with it personally, so it wasn't something I bothered about.
I didn't like it. Yeah.
I really liked the new commands, and we talked about this before, right? The shortcut commands that exist on Facebook. I think they're really good, just using J and K to move between all the different posts. But those, even though it says they are there, it says they are active, it doesn't work. They just do not work. So NFB have been working with Meta, or talking to Meta at least, to try and resolve these Facebook issues.
I would say shouting at.
Yeah, and you know what? Rightly so. Yeah,
I don't know if they are. It's just the image I get in my head.
Yeah, but I think they should be shouting, because honestly, this is actually causing people to be unable to access this in any meaningful way. I mean, I can't go onto that website now and use it. It's not accessible. It's not. I mean, it's accessible in the sense of if I want to arrow through every single element on the page. Yes.
Usability, accessibility. Yeah.
Exactly. The usability of the site is awful. So what happened was there was a post put up by the NFB just last night saying that there was a new update on this story. Facebook had provided this URL which would force the mobile version of the site to appear. So kind of like going back to the MBasic idea. Now, I tried it this morning. You tried it today. And it just takes us right back to the original Facebook.com site. It's not the mobile version, it's the desktop version. So,
well, as far as I can tell, I mean, and looking at the URL it actually takes you to, it's just www.facebook.com. So, where previously it would be m.facebook.com, right, for the mobile. But as far as I can tell, there's no difference. I mean, there's still a lot there. So I'm not entirely sure what's changed. And I will say this, right? Before I start, I will say it's essential that we have site loss organizations. But do you think that campaigning for a separate version of a service is better than campaigning for making the mainstream service accessible?
Yeah.
Do we want a mobile version? Because we got the apps now. The mobile version just sort of died because, well, you've got apps. I use the app on iPhone, and it's okay. There are some problems there because there's so much to go through, and there are some issues, of course. But in general, I can swipe through. I can do whatever I need to do. I don't think I want this is your website, and this is for the mainstream.
The blind
just
box.
Make the mainstream accessible. Yeah, well, just make the mainstream one accessible. Get those keyboard shortcuts working. Maybe split up the post by headings so it's easy to navigate. Whatever it may be. I don't want a separate site. I want your site to be accessible.
Yeah, I agree. And look, for me, it's as simple as I just want the shortcuts to work, because when they do, I mean, look, X is fully accessible on the web, right? Because those shortcuts work, and it's the same shortcuts that would work on Facebook, because it seems to be, I don't know the standard behind this or how this came to be, but ultimately these shortcuts are uniform across various sites. LinkedIn, looking at you next, because that's a dumpster fire at the best of times. But, you know, sorry, I should also say the world's biggest bragging site. I just thought I'd mention that.
That's for executives. I've never been there. That's for you posh people.
But look, you know, all these things have to be accessible, right? And there are tools to make them accessible. And what's irritating is they have the tools there.
Yes.
They actually don't have to go and create anything. They just have to enable what they've already built.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make any sense. Just make that accessible, and suddenly that's the problem solved. Now, I know it means that for lots of people, you're going to have to relearn how to do it, but is that not a better way of doing things than saying, no, I want to have my blind Facebook page that I can go and access? I don't know if that's the right approach. I mean, I thought we were trying to move away from all that. I thought the whole point was, if we're talking about inclusion, then inclusion is not, well, we have a separate entrance over here, or if you want equal treatment, basically, you don't want special treatment. That's what I would always hear from that argument.
But there's
ultimately,
reason.
we want one route in, right?
Yeah, and there's no reason why that one route shouldn't be accessible.
Absolutely no reason. Absolutely no reason at all. So, look, I'm glad NFB are on the case with this, but I kind of sometimes wonder where the direction of travel is with all this, because, you know, I'm with you. I think, you know, what are we pushing for here? Are we pushing for a separate site? I'm not for that. I want the same site as everyone else is using, and I want to use the accessibility tools that are already built into it, and I'd like those enhanced. You know, so for example, groups, Messenger, you know, I want all that to be simple and accessible using those core commands. To me, that's it. And again, use what you've already built. You don't have to go and build it all again. But as far as I can tell, this mobile version of whatever it's pretending to be is not what it pretends to be. And, you know, even and there's a note in the statement from NFB which says, you know, ultimately there are caveats to this. You cannot easily get from one post to the other. Well, that's useless. I mean, what's the point?
That's the whole point.
Yeah. I mean, is that not the point of Facebook and X and Mastodon? You actually move from post to post. If you can't get from post to post, it's useless. Yeah. So we're not any further forward here. I mean, I'm glad conversations are going on, but, you know, there's always a sense of let's all pat ourselves in the back. We've done well. Hang on, before we start patting ourselves in the back, let's see some results. Right.
Yeah, let's be clear here. We're not having a go at the NFB or anything.
I'm having a go at Meta because they should have fixed this. But the conversation, we've got to be careful because we don't want
conversation.
We don't want to have a conversation saying we want our own blind site. Yeah. Not interested in that. I'm sorry. We should not be interested in that. You tell me if you think different, but I don't think we should be pushing for that. I think we should have the same access as everyone else. We shouldn't have a blind version of Facebook on the phone or a blind version of this on, because we all know what that leads to. It leads to inaccessibility. It leads to being closed down. And if you want proof, MBasic is the proof, right? Because it was there. We had that solution and it's gone because it wasn't looked after. Why would a company spend all the time and effort looking after this site for a few people when it can focus on a main website for everyone? That's the one I want to be on.
It passes the buck. That's not our problem. That's for the blind team working on the blind part of the service. It passes the buck.
Interesting story, though. So, yeah, good luck to them with that. Also, Google have announced a few new accessibility updates, and we are pleased to say that Alexander Jensen is going to tell us a little bit about those, courtesy of Google.
What's new in accessibility at Google? To kick things off, an announcement for Pixel users. Guided Frame just got a whole lot better. For those unfamiliar, Guided Frame helps blind and low vision users take better photos by providing verbal and audio cues, high contrast animation, and haptic feedback that confirms when the subject is in frame. The latest round of updates include improved AI object recognition, which has expanded to include pets and objects in addition to faces. This means that whether you're taking a picture of your friend, your new puppy, or a dessert at a restaurant, this feature will provide verbal guidance so you can center your subject before auto-capturing the image. Guided Frame also comes with improved face angle guidance, which helps you prompt to tilt your face up or down, pan left to right, before the camera auto-captures the image. It also lets you know if your lighting is low so you can find a better spot. Another update is intelligent face filtering in group photos, which lets the camera focus on the intended group of people in a photo instead of those who may unintentionally have walked into frame. If you have the TalkBack screen reader turned on, guided frame will be automatically turned on as well. And you can also turn on the feature directly from your camera setting. Both support Pixel 6 or higher. In other Pixel news, the Magnifier app, co-designed with the low vision community, also got an upgrade that leverages AI. In addition to helping people see things that are far away or that are difficult to read, the Magnifier app can now be used to search for and zoom right into specific words in your surroundings, like finding gluten-free items on a menu or gate numbers at an airport. Just snap a photo and start searching. You can also use the new picture-in-picture format to see both the bigger context of what you're looking at, along with details on your screen without losing your place. Perfect for perusing behind-the-counter options at the deli. For more details on how to use the Magnifier app, be sure to check out our latest video, Get to Know the newly updated Magnifier app on Pixel. Shifting to broader Android updates, we're excited to talk about Live Caption, a feature which provides real-time captions for a wide range of audio sources on Android devices. In addition to being supported in 7 new languages, Korean, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, simplified Chinese, Turkish and Vietnamese, we also launched Expressive Captions, a feature that brings emotions to captions. Expressive Captions not only tells you what someone is saying, but how they're saying it, by displaying things like emphasis, volume, and background noises. If a person is shouting, for example, the caption text may be displayed in all caps, or if an audience is applauding, Expressive Caption may show cheers and applause. Expressive Captions is available in the US, in English, on any Android device running Android 14 and above that has Live Caption. We also released automatically generated captions in Workspace. This means that when users upload a video to Google Drive, captions are automatically generated, creating a transcript of your video. Automatically generated captions are supported in English, with plans to expand to other languages in the future. In Lookout, our app that uses your phone's camera to recognize and describe details about the world around you, we're improving the accuracy of image mode. Now powered by Gemini, image mode is giving users more detailed descriptions of their photos, whether the photos are taken with the app or pulled in from other apps, including social media. In addition to more comprehensive descriptions, Lookout's image Q&A mode is now available globally, enabling users across the world to ask follow-up questions about their photos. And with Lookout's new auto language detection support, the app can detect and read out text in 35 languages, including Arabic. Finally, we are thrilled to announce that TalkBack Android screen reader just got a major upgrade. Powered by Gemini, TalkBack now provides even more vivid and informative descriptions of images across your device. Whether you're browsing online, checking your photos, or scrolling through social media, TalkBack can help like never before. Moving on to Chrome OS, an exciting update for Select to Speak, the feature that enables you to select certain text or parts of the screen to be spoken aloud. This feature now includes AI-powered object character recognition, or OCR, which enabled text to speak in Chrome PDF Viewer on documents that were previously inaccessible, like scanned PDFs.
Innovating solutions that connect to and for everyone.
Our final update is for Google Wallet. Recently, we released an update that makes it easier for blind and low vision users to save their state-issued IDs to Google Wallet. Screen reader users will now receive verbal directions on how to position the phone camera to take a clear image of their ID, as well as audio and haptic feedback in real time.
So there you go. Tons of new accessibility features. A huge thank you to Alexander Jensen and, of course, the entire Google Accessibility team for continuing to support us here at Double Tap by allowing us to share those videos as well. You can, of course, watch the full video and find out lots more about the entire series of Google Accessibility videos. We'll provide a link in our show notes, but definitely pretty cool, the stuff that's going on over there at Google. And, you know, Carry On Accessibility, Carrie Morales, of course, also known as Carry On Accessibility Online. She has been putting together a cool video on all that, so go check that out. And, of course, we'll get Carrie on soon to tell us all about it.
I want an Android phone. That's it. I'm throwing this iPhone away. I mean, there's so many cool things there. And we're seeing the power of AI sort of dictating a lot of those improvements, right? That guided frame was very cool. I always thought it was, it's nice to be, okay, you're in the center of frame, but all those extra bits of information that we need to take a really good photo are there now. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think about like pets as well, and just being able to identify more than just humans, right? Objects, whatever it might be. If you want to take a picture, you want to take a good picture. This is what it's all about. Just trying to equal everyone in this. And I really love what they're doing because they're making it cool. I mean, I kind of like the fact they're talking to a younger generation here. We all know that, of course, sight loss comes to many people later in life. But, I've said this for years. There are a lot of young people out there who want to get engaged in this technology, want to be using this stuff, want to be cool, want to be using the same tools as their friends.
Of course.
Why not? And if you can do it in a way that's not, I don't know what the right word is, but...
Dusty.
Well, not even that, but you know what I mean? It's just, you're using a phone, it's quite... it's a serious process, you're kind of going through swipe, button. Whereas if you can just almost, and we'll get to a stage, I'm sure, where it's all natural language, and you'll just talk to it and say, do whatever. I will say though, Siri, forget it. Try, take a selfie and it's off opening up Google Maps. It doesn't know what it's doing anymore. I don't know what's going on. Do you see they've brought someone in to try and fix the issues with Siri? Apparently they've brought in a new person. Yeah, about time. Maybe they should have done that at the start.
Yeah. It's still, I mean, even just the basic functions are still, they're so hit and miss to be annoying. I did ask it how to reset the Apple TV remote the other day, expecting it just to give me a Google search result. But it didn't. It actually walked me through the steps itself. I thought, oh, that's quite cool. But then, of course, I asked it to, call Dad, and it started ordering toilet roll or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm joking there, but
it's not far wrong though. I mean, it's not far wrong at all.
It gets it wrong on the basic stuff. But again, the get out clause is that Apple Intelligence is still rolling out.
And of course, Google Gemini getting better and better. And I was getting a bit mixed up at the beginning when I learned about the Google Gemini with the image description built in to TalkBack with Lookout, because Lookout has a bit more functionality in the sense that you can ask questions, you can do follow-up questions within the Lookout app, which is a brilliant app on Android, by the way.
It is.
And, the speed of response when it sees an item, if you're identifying things in the house, the speed of response is fantastic. I do feel today that if I was just starting out on my smartphone journey, I would not be uninclined to go and try out an Android phone.
Why? Slow yourself down. Not uninclined.
No, is that right? Is that a double negative? I think I
don't know if that's
wrong.
A word or not.
I know.
But still,
I should really have paid attention at school when I was there. But
Braille literacy.
I would definitely. Yeah, that's right. I just need actual literacy. That's what I need. But no, I think.
No, I kind of agree with you.
It's a
and
cool
I read
system.
somewhere as well. Look, I haven't used my Android phone in a while now, but I did read that if you download the Google Gemini app on your Android phone, it actually replaces the Google Assistant. So it becomes basically, I'm going to say Siri, sorry, Android users, but that's just the comparison I'm using. But it replaces the Google...
I would say on the one occasion I would stand up for the Android people and say, that is unfair, Sean. That's really unfair. Because Google Gemini works.
Oh, dear. Okay. I don't know how integrated it is, but you can set it to be your new general assistant. I think that's pretty cool.
We're going to come back to that whole story of Apple Intelligence a little bit later. One of our listeners has got plenty to say on that. I want to move on, though, to this one. Do you fancy making your own talking microwave?
Absolutely not. No.
This is such a great story. So this came out of of Australia, I believe. So this is a talking microwave conversion kit, right? Which costs $240, I'm guessing Australian dollars, which means it's like $5, I think, in US or Canada. I'm only joking. I kid the Australian people. But, basically it converts an existing microwave into a talking microwave. The actions are spoken aloud when buttons are pressed. Do you want to hear what it sounds like when it's converted?
Yes.
So this is a traditional microwave, just, off the peg or shelf. And, this has got no talking functionality whatsoever. This new conversion kit has been installed into it. It now sounds like this.
Power level high, 0 minutes, 52 seconds. Microwave running. Microwave halted, 0 minutes, 46 seconds remaining.
I love the donk at the end. Bonk.
Donk. I was waiting for the rooster noise at the end. That sounded like my old talking clock from the 80s. I'm really torn by this one, Stephen Scott.
Okay,
I'm slightly nervous to
let me tell you more.
Opinion.
Let me tell you more first. So
Please
this works
do.
with any microwave no older than 5 years old. It's best suited to microwaves with a removable control panel and no knobs or dials.
Let me stop you there before you carry on. It works with all microwaves, except the ones older than 5 years, and only with the ones where you can rip out the controls and replace them with this talking unit.
Yeah, and also I should also add, it's really important, it's designed to be installed by an appliance repair company. This is not something you can do yourself, Shaun. You know, I'm not going to get in there with my screwdriver and
a hammer.
Mm-hmm. You know me well.
Okay.
And this is, I think this is mainly available in Australia. I don't know how outside of Australia this is, how available this is, but I thought it was an interesting story because I guess there's a lot of people who jump on this and say, well, just buy a talking microwave or go and buy a Lady A microwave or one that works with Lady A. Well,
yes.
Two things. First off, that's important. That's great if you can afford to do that because talking microwaves are very expensive. But also, they may not be available where you live. So what's the alternative to you? This sounds like it's been created to solve that issue, almost like there isn't a talking microwave available. I don't know if there is or not. I imagine there must be talking microwaves available in Australia, but there may well not be.
So.
And if or maybe it's not as available or maybe too expensive, in which case this is a cheaper alternative to that. Shaun Preece, your thoughts and views.
Oh, wow. Okay, let me just clarify something. When you say $240, you talking Australian there?
Well, it's from Australia, so I'm guessing Australian dollar.
Australian dollars. So, okay. Yeah, I until you finished off with that statement about, hey, don't jump on this, about just go and buy an accessible one. I kind of was going to go there, and now you've shamed me out of it because, of course, not every country does have access to it. But still, at the same time, I'm not sure how usable this is. I mean, you've got to get a repair company to install it. How many microwaves come with a removable control panel? I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe it's commonplace, actually. I don't know. But I suppose I should say I'm happy it exists. At least there's an option there, maybe. But I can't see it sort of, I don't know, making a big impact on most of us.
No, I can't either. But I mean, yeah, on one hand, I'm thinking to myself, is this the Facebook mobile website again? It's like, let's create something else that does. I mean, look, there's a couple of things here, right? I mean, one is you could think about, obviously, the cost of the talking microwave, very expensive. That is a big factor here.
What is it compared to $240
well,
anyway?
Yeah, okay, right. So I don't know, right? I don't know. I mean, maybe, again, Australian dollar's different, so I don't know if it's maybe going to be double that for a talking microwave. It could well be. Maybe even more, I don't know. But here's the point, that ultimately, if you don't have the funds, you can't buy it. So what is the alternative? I guess for many people, the alternative is going to be buying a cheap microwave and using bump-ons or tactile markings on that device in order to use it. When I go to my mum's house, she doesn't have a talking microwave. So when I'm using that microwave, I'm just using my phone and asking Siri to set a timer for, X amount of time, and then I just turn it all the way on and just leave it until it's, and hopefully remember to turn it off when what's that timer for? Oh yeah, the thing, and then to go and turn off the microwave.
Exactly what I do on the air fryer. Yeah, just full on for an hour and then just time it myself. I just find the, quick cook for 1 minute, high power 1 minute, but button that's on all of them. So yeah, we're so resilient anyway. We find our own workarounds. But again, I don't want to be a naysayer to this. I'm just not sure that there's a huge demand for something like this to retrofit certain microwaves.
Okay.
I may be wrong. Of course, it has been known to happen many times.
You'll always find out about it here on Double Tap, and I'm sure we'll always argue the case as well. Listen, that's you up to date with the news today, and there we go. That's us up to date.
News.
Do you want to get into some emails?
I want to talk about the new news jingle.
Well, did you like the new news jingle? We've actually had that for years, but I just don't use it all the time.
I was going to correct myself. It's just come out of retirement, it seems.
It has.
Very good, Stephen Scott. Well done. Now let's do emails.
Let's do email. Well, first, let's tell you how to get involved.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Yeah, get in touch. Tell us your thoughts on everything you're hearing today. I imagine there's going to be plenty to talk about. There often is with Double Tap. Our email inbox is absolutely full, and we will be spending some time going into all of those emails and messages you've been sending. Keep them coming, though, because we will get to them, and we do appreciate you sending them in. We do ask you to be a little bit concise with your points, just because of the amount of time that we have on the show to donate, to provide,
yes.
to is that the word? To donate? That's not right.
No,
to give to
either.
feedback is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, speaking of which, emails. Email.
We get email. We get your email every day. Here's your mail today.
Oh,
that was
good.
nice. I like that.
That was good. Changing up a little bit. It's a new feel to Double Tap today. I like it.
I like it. Okay, so let's hear from Kyla first off, who wants to talk about Apple Intelligence.
Hello, Double Tappers. This is Kyla Golden, and I'm writing to you today as a concerned member of the Apple and blind community deeply troubled by Apple's recent decision to restrict ChatGPT integration and writing tools to newer devices. As a strong advocate for accessibility and inclusivity, I believe these restrictions create a significant barrier for voiceover users and undermine Apple's claims of commitment to inclusive design. Here's why these restrictions are particularly harmful to the blind community. ChatGPT and information access. Currently, when a voiceover user asks Siri a question that triggers a web search, Siri responds that she found something on the web, and the results appear briefly on the screen and then vanish. This forces us to either scramble to interact with the screen or repeat the search, disrupting our workflow and hindering research tasks. Deep ChatGPT integration with Siri would allow for seamless auditory responses, making information access far more efficient and independent. Writing tools and equal opportunity. While most writing tools are currently available offline, community members have discovered that others don't appear in the menu when airplane mode is on, and therefore require an internet connection, creating an inconsistent and confusing experience for voiceover users. Restricting advanced AI-powered writing assistants to newer devices, rather than making all of the writing tools accessible over the internet, puts blind students and professionals at a disadvantage, limiting our ability to receive assistance in producing high-quality written work without downloading one more app onto our iPhones. These restrictions contradict Apple's claims of prioritizing accessibility. Siri can already verbalize some web results to general questions, access personal data, and interact with third-party services like Uber, Lyft, or Aira on older devices. Why then is ChatGPT integration any different? This appears to be a strategic business decision to push sales of new devices rather than a genuine technical limitation. I urge you and any members of the community within the sound of this email to use your platform to raise awareness about this issue and pressure Apple to reconsider its approach. Accessibility should be a right, not a privilege reserved for those who can afford the latest devices. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Kyla Golden from Eagle, Idaho.
Kyla, good to hear from you. It's been a while. Thank you for the email. So, Shaun, are Apple just trying to cash in and buy, get us all to buy new phones, or is this a strategic reasoning for this beyond money?
I mean, I must say, Kyla, I don't actually agree with you. There is an argument there for saying, hey, what's the reason? Is it arbitrary? Is it artificial that you can't use Apple Intelligence on earlier hardware, earlier phones, earlier whatever it may be? Is there a technical reason? And this takes us back to the days when Siri was introduced, only available on the 4S.
Yeah.
Well, why? I mean, there were jailbreaks out there that could run it on any model virtually. So, yeah, there is a discussion to be had about that. But your main point about, if you don't have access to AI, that is failing in accessibility, I'm not sure I follow that. I don't think I would go that far.
Well, I think his point is that essentially, if someone has, say, an iPhone 12 or an iPhone 11, they're going to have to spend money in order to get access to this tool, which, can improve and, help that person do what they want to do.
What does it do for accessibility? That's the point. Yes, there's no denying that AI can be incredibly useful, but does it mean that Apple are failing? That's a hard word to say. Failing with accessibility. I don't think AI and lack of AI means that accessibility is missing necessarily.
Yeah,
writing tools for me are still, okay, it's nice, but if you don't have access to it, do you not have accessibility features? No, I don't think I go with that. I understand it's annoying. And again, there is a conversation to be had about why it's only available on these models. But I don't believe it's failing accessibility if you don't have access to AI.
Ultimately, if it's a mainstream feature, and let's be honest, this is a mainstream feature, yes, there may be accessibility benefits to it, but ultimately it's a mainstream functionality, being able to use Apple Intelligence, use the ChatGPT integration. I think if you were to make the argument that Apple should make it available, you should make it the argument that it's available for all, right? Not just for blind people or disabled people. It should be available to everybody. So, really the argument here is more about the access to these features on older devices. That's ultimately all this comes down to. Yeah. I look, we live in a capitalist world, or a capitalist society at least, and as a result of that, companies need to make growth. Now, whether you agree with it, whether you disagree with it, whether you love it or hate it, that's the reality we're in. And those companies need to make money every year. Now, I don't think personally that, we should have a new iPhone every year. I don't think we need a new iPhone every 3 years, to be perfectly honest. The iPhone we have today, whatever iPhone you've got, if you've got an iPhone 11 or a 12, I'm using an iPhone 8 for some of the stuff I do. And there's nothing wrong with it. It works perfectly well. There's no issue with it at all. And it could probably run all this software that's out today. Especially considering the fact a lot of this is going off to the cloud. The only challenge might be battery life, but that's about it, right? They're making the software more efficient, so and arguably it could work.
Yeah, but you did say that very throwaway that all the software can work on this hardware. That may not be the case. When we're talking about on-device AI.
No. Well, that's right. But ChatGPT isn't on device, right?
No, it isn't. No, that's right. Yes, only the Apple Intelligence part of it is on device, but still. Look, maybe all linked.
I've got to say this, and I'm sorry, and I know Apple, I love you to bits, and I love you, but I've got to be honest with it. And true friends will always be honest with each other. I have to say this. It is, Apple Intelligence is fast becoming the narrator of Windows. It's, a wonderful screen reader that helps you get to NVDA or JAWS. What I use Apple Intelligence for is to get to ChatGPT. I'm skipping past the Apple Intelligence part because, frankly, I just don't find it very useful.
In the latest iOS update 18.3, Apple Intelligence is now on by default. You don't have to go into the settings and actually enable it. It just is on. So, again, it's rolling out. I kind of feel like we're going off on a tangent. Did you think that AI or a lack of access to AI impacts accessibility? That's the core of the question.
I don't think it does. No, because, again, I suppose you would have to figure out what the link is. And you've laid it out, right? You've said about research and people who are doing work. But I don't know if I would go down that route. I don't know if it's the best argument. And I know why you're making the argument, Kyla, because you're saying, look, essentially I want my older devices to get access to this. But I don't know if you can just chuck accessibility in the middle of that conversation and therefore it becomes a more valid argument. It's just like, I just imagine almost like some kind of sketch of, someone just walking into a room and shouting, blind, and everyone goes, okay, I see your point. Okay, fine.
That's what I do. Front of the queue, blind.
Well, that's the thing, right? You got to be careful, right? You can't just throw it in the middle of the room and say, well, there you go, so therefore. And everyone goes, oh, well, that's a good point. Because actually, I don't know if it is.
There may be a correlation here that I'm missing, so I'm quite happy for people to let us know.
Yeah, get in touch.
I don't agree.
Okay, fine. I hear you.
All right. Sorry, Kyler. Sorry, I don't.
Listen, I think we might have time for one more. Let's go to Rebecca. We'll see if we can fit this in before we go.
I appreciated your points of view on Braille and agree that it should be taught to all blind and low vision kids. However, I think the way Braille is used and taught needs a refresh. I've used Braille since I was 7, but I've had to learn multiple codes, including grades 1 and 2, English, American Braille, Nemeth Braille, Computer Braille, and UEB. Frankly, this is a lot to keep up with, though I do not use Nemeth much now that I'm working. The Perkins keyboard is great for taking notes, but I find it hard to navigate the web using a Perkins keyboard. This is why I like my Mantis Q40 and hope to get the Optima laptop at some point. Maybe we should reconsider what codes kids should learn and encourage them to use a QWERTY keyboard and reserve the Perkins keyboard for personal note-taking. I do not have all the answers here, but we've got too many Braille codes. Let the users decide which codes work best for them if they are new Braille learners. I think kids need to know how to read UEB and Nemeth or UEB maths, but I think they should be encouraged to type on a computer and use a Braille display. I would encourage TVIs to teach computer Braille if the student had to use a Perkins keyboard. We need to teach kids how to produce math on a computer so that a TVI doesn't have to transcribe Braille. All of these Braille codes should be maintained, but kids should not have to learn 4 or 5 Braille codes just to get by. As an adult, I have the freedom to use whatever Braille code I want, and so do you. However, let's reconsider how old ways of teaching Braille might hurt kids.
Yeah, interesting point, Rebecca. And, it comes back to that point I've been making long enough about the whole QWERTY keyboard versus the Perkins input. I've no issue with the Perkins input. It's how you learn. That's important. But I think also touch typing is equally important as well. And I think we have to consider that, right? It's about training kids to be, able to do lots of different things. It has to, so if you can touch type and you can read the Braille, you're going to be doing really, really well, potentially in the future. Of course, we all know there's arguments around that as well, right? So, there's arguments around all of it.
Up that one.
But, I think it's a great conversation. It's a great it's a great point you make, Rebecca. Listen, guys, we're out of time today. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hope you enjoyed all the news stories we got for you and the feedback as well. We'll get to more of that on tomorrow's Double Tap. Shaun, as always, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.